welcome to On the Air presented by AIRWAAV. I'm your host, Sydney Smith, and I'm here with Ty Jenkins, 3 times Fittest Teen on Earth. I kind of want to start with talking about this season because I know it's a little bit crazy and maybe a little upsetting too, just because how quarters went. So how do you feel about your season this year?
As frustrating as it might be, because after quarters was done, when it was unofficial, I was 23rd in the region. And then after the review process, I ended up somewhere in the 50s. Obviously, that was frustrating, but I definitely walked away with more confidence than I had going in, knowing that I was fit enough to be at semis and not only just barely scrape by, but middle of the pack at semis this year.
Yeah.
And kind of seeing my progress over the last few years, I think we got a really good shot to not only make it to semis next year, but I think do something that might shock a lot of people. So that's super exciting. But as far as like the review situation, at the end of the day, it's just I didn't move perfectly, and whether I agree with the amount of reps they took away or not isn't super important, because there were definitely no reps during my workout. And a lot of other people were affected by it, and it's frustrating overall, but at the end of the day, it's nothing we can do about it now. So time to move on, hopefully tear some stuff up in the off season, but really get around and be ready to go next season.
Yeah. First, I want to say it's really impressive that before the penalties, of course, you're standing in the leaderboard, especially considering your age, even if you were older. But a lot of people in the sport, especially semifinals level, are older, so they have a little bit more training under their belt. So I think that's super impressive. So I wouldn't let it discourage you at all. So I'm excited to see what you do in the future, especially because you have a lot of years ahead of you to do well.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with that, does that change your mindset at all moving forward?
Obviously, just any sort of online qualifier, just being super, super cautious of the standards. I have heard of this happening to some people, and as far as a major penalty goes, it doesn't happen to a lot of people twice because they, going into it the next time around, are super, super cautious because they know how much it sucks to not make it on a technicality rather than on a fitness based. So I think moving forward, we're just going to be more cautious. But as far as the rest of the season goes, I get the chance I have a couple extra months of an off season. So I'm going to train for a triathlon, which I'm super excited for, while still being in the gym and being ready for the upcoming season. But I am super excited to kind of venture out and do something a little different. So.
Yeah. Do you like the endurance side of CrossFit better than if you want to do a triathlon?
It's interesting because I do better on sprinty events, but I have a swimming background and I do really enjoy, in training at least, the workouts that are 30 minutes or longer. But on the leaderboard, it doesn't exactly reflect that. So I do enjoy endurance better though.
When is that triathlon?
It's going to be the end of July.
Okay. So then what will training look like that? Obviously, you're still going to be doing some CrossFit stuff, but maybe it might not be fully CrossFit training just like how it is, especially in the season. So how does that change your training?
We are going to take away one day a week in the gym. So I'm usually 5 days of full training and then an active recovery day and a complete rest day. That's typically my training schedule in a week. But this summer, it's going to be 4 days of CrossFit training, an active recovery day, a rest day, and then Sundays will be dedicated to just running, swimming, or biking. Long aerobic pieces going over an hour, really working on that triathlon style stuff. But most of the week still focused on CrossFit. I'm excited. It'll be a change, but I'm excited for it for sure.
Yeah. It'll be cool too to mix up the monotonous CrossFit training all the time and with endurance providing a good base for this upcoming season. So it could be good for your mindset and also just providing more of an aerobic base as well. So it could be good in various aspects.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things to do around here, especially in Missouri, we have a lot of mountain biking trails. I love to get out on a
Mm-hmm.
bike. And just in season, I'm a little more cautious because, Ricky Garrard had an
Yeah.
incident last season, and I just try to be cautious about injuries during the season. But I'm going to get to spend a lot of time on a bike this summer, so I'm really excited.
Yeah. You can't be risking getting hurt close to the season at all, especially
Mhm.
when you're really good. So during school, I know you are close to graduating. How many weeks till graduation?
Friday, so 5 days.
Okay, so very, very soon.
Yes.
Obviously, your schedule is about to change within 5 days, but typically beforehand, what does your schedule look like trying to balance competing in CrossFit and school?
For the majority of the school year, it was I would train before school and then after school, and then had a little more freedom in the evenings. And I went to school from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day. So those morning sessions were pretty early, and then head right back to the gym after school. So long days, but it definitely makes it worth it. And I'm going to be grateful when the summer rolls around and I can focus on just training as opposed to having very long days mixing training and school.
Yeah. Do you know where you're going after you graduate as far as college, or is that on the horizon?
So something we're the only thing that's for certain is I'm gonna study online through a local school, Ozark Technical Community College. I can get 2 years there completely online and get an associate's in applied science, which will transfer nicely to mechanical engineering, which is what I hope to end up doing if I continue to pursue the college route. Um, but the nice thing about it being online is if I fall in love with a training camp or a certain area, I can take that there as well. So right now, there's no super like sure plan of what the next 2 years look like, but I'll have some flexibility and be able to move around, which will be nice.
Yeah. It's important for you to stay in Missouri. Like, is your coach there or anything?
Yes, I have a coach who lives, 20 minutes from me. It's really nice. But
Okay, yeah, that's
I
close.
also, yes, but I've also traveled to several different camps and have enjoyed my time seeing other parts of the country as well. In some areas, I could see myself living, but at the same time, it's just about what makes sense, both financially and for my training career. So, still very
Yeah.
unsure as to where the next 2 years will be. I feel like every year I finish the year with a different idea of what I'm going to be doing the next year. So, try not to think too far ahead.
I think it's always like that too, so I don't really think that changes much and you don't have to figure it out because stuff it really just goes all over the place with how your plans go and really what happens and what you're qualifying for and yeah, it's just all over the place. But so I wouldn't stress about it too much. So in school, you were playing multiple sports. What makes you so driven to do those several sports, school, and compete in CrossFit at such a high level?
Um, I would just say it comes down to I've always kind of had a competitive spirit ever since I started swimming. I just swimming was new for me. It was my first individual sport, and in individual sports, there's no one else to blame when something goes wrong. And so it was very much how much you wanted to work would reflect on how you did at competitions. And so I think from I've swam for 10 years now. So I think from
Oh
time I was
wow.
8, I really developed kind of a competitive edge of like, hey, I know that hard work will yield results, and so I can look past like these long days and kind of see what it's all building towards. And so, football season, baseball season throughout my high school career, early mornings, like starting at 3:30 in the morning, and then training,
That's so
school,
early.
and then practice after school, and then training after practice, and just these insanely long days, and then homework and stuff. But um, as busy and as hard as some of those seasons were, I don't regret any of them. I definitely think they built character and discipline for sure. And so as that's all kind of winding down now with graduating next week, I'm grateful for the very busy 3 years I've had, but and also excited to where I can focus a little more just on training.
I would definitely say you have a lot of discipline and dedication that a lot of people don't have. And yeah, I think that's definitely going to pay off, especially with having more of an athletic background besides just CrossFit. Because I think whenever you have other sports behind you, it plays a better role into how you compete and just really how athletic you are and able to adapt to different movements and whatever it may be. So, do you see
Absolutely.
CrossFit helping with your athletic abilities in the other sports that you were involved in?
Yeah, so I started CrossFit to get better at baseball.
Okay.
And kind of didn't expect CrossFit to be the one that I went with. For me, it was just a way to get better at baseball. But absolutely, I mean, I got stronger, more explosive, fitter, and so definitely saw increases in my performance in both football and baseball. Um, and I think that goes both ways. I think there's an aspect of explosiveness in CrossFit that I was able to enter the sport with. And because of my past with football and baseball, and I mean, absolutely playing sports and playing as many sports as possible and trying to learn new things, just as far as coordination, adaptability, it's absolutely worth it.
Who has been an inspiration to you in the sport so far? Because you started CrossFit because of baseball to get better at baseball. And then you're looking at different athletes as far as who is your inspiration. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I kind of coming into the sport within the last 3 years means that a lot of the people I look up to are CrossFitters who are either young or still in the sport, and so um, Sprague is one that I look up to, just not only as an athlete, but he's also a great dude, and he's always trying to do new things, and he's always checking in on me. He's definitely one of my favorites that's competing in the elite field right now. But even guys like Noah Olson, who every time I've ran into him at the games, he's been super kind and nice and takes the time to introduce himself. Even when I was a 15-year-old at the games my first time and totally starstruck, but Noah Olson like took the time to shake my hand to
Mhm.
introduce himself. And even looking up to his competitive career, 10 years at the CrossFit Games is awesome and absolutely something
Yeah.
that's the goal for me is a long career at the games. And so he's absolutely another one that I look up to.
Did you start CrossFit when you were 15?
Um, I think I was technically 14, but my first year competing, I was 15 by the time the
Okay.
open rolled around.
And now you're 18, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you hope to accomplish in your career, whether that be in CrossFit or outside of it if you choose to do something different?
Um, I don't, as far as specific goals, I think just being as competitive as I am, I don't think I'll ever tell anyone that my goal is not to win the games. I think whether that's extremely optimistic or not, I think you go into every season thinking that this is working towards eventually standing on top of the podium. And kind of like I touched on with Noah Olson, I think a long career in the sport where this could be my job would be awesome. And that's definitely something that now as I go to graduate and maybe move out of the house, something that I think about more is is this something that I can support myself doing for a long period of time? Because if so, that's also definitely a goal. Um, and then, yeah, just have a long, fun career, be around the sport as long as possible, enjoy it, hopefully help influence some other athletes, and I started programming recently. That's exclusively
Okay.
for teenagers. And it's just because
That's
I
so
love
cool.
I love helping, because as a teenager, there's things that you need to be doing differently, just with your metabolism, your recovery, things like that. And so I had to learn a lot of that myself. So if I can help pass that down to some teenagers and save them the time of having to discover it themselves, and I can just teach them that, I've been really trying to do that. And so, just long career, eventually on top of the podium, and then kind of helping other athletes make it up there too is kind of my big three goals. So.
I think it's cool that you want to help others with what you've already learned so far, and as you'll be learning more down the road, and you have a lot of potential for sure, especially considering how much is ahead of you, and just really trying to have fun with it, because I think that makes it a lot more long lasting and enjoyable as long as you can have a good perspective on it and not put too much pressure on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we see a lot of people in the sport putting their value into CrossFit. And so if something
Yeah.
goes wrong, or even if they're doing well, there's just a lot of pressure because it's who they are. And so that's another thing that I encourage the athletes I talk to do, is to find something else to put their value in. For me, that's my faith. Like, I put my
Mm-hmm.
value in the fact that I'm made in the image of God, and everyone is, rather than my value is CrossFit. Like, I'm not Ty Jenkins CrossFit athlete. That doesn't define me. And so I think, as far as my mental approach to the season, and even being able to handle something tough like a penalty where I get booted out of the qualifying spot and my season's over, like, I can have mental peace about it because it doesn't define me. I'm not Ty Jenkins 50 whatever place in North America West. That's not it's not my title. So
Yeah.
but yeah, that's just kind of how I have another way I've kind of helped the young athletes, because we see a lot of young athletes who struggle with that.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, especially the amount of athletes we've even seen within this past year putting too much pressure and on the sport and their performance. And especially you being in the sport as an athlete, you have a different perspective of being able to encourage other athletes as well. Like, it's not like you're speaking out of left field. You are in the situation yourself. And I think that even holds a higher value of what you're saying. So I would encourage you to keep doing that. And I think that is a great mindset to have that holds very true.
Thank you.
So I want to move a little bit into AIRWAAV because you use it in training, you used it at the games when you're competing, you're using it in high level of competition. How were you introduced to it?
So my first season, I took a trip out to CrossFit Mayhem, and several of the guys out there were using it. And as a young CrossFitter who absolutely looked up to Rich Froning, because in a lot of people's eyes, he's the best to ever do it. And so you see him using a mouthpiece, and then obviously you're curious about it. And so
You want to use
then I
it too?
got to talk. Yeah, exactly. So then I got talking to some of them about it, and they just explained it to me as it's a performance booster. It helps, like, just with your breathing and helping to relax during a workout. And so that's how I discovered it. I ordered one, I think, before I even got home. And ever since have used it in training, competition. I mean, you name it, it's been a part of my preparation for sure.
Was the main reason for wanting to try it was because the best in the sport was using it, or was there some type of issue alongside of that that you saw would benefit you of using AIRWAAV?
I think it was. I was still young in the competition side of CrossFit, and so
Mm-hmm.
anything that could help me out, I was willing to try. But something that one of them mentioned was that if they were a tight runner, like they were tight with their upper body, like shrug their shoulders super tight, that having something in their mouth, like the AIRWAAV, helped them relax as well. And that was a problem that I felt like I had with my running, and also being a baseball player where you're used to chewing on gum or sunflower seeds or whatever. It made sense to
Yeah.
me that having something in your mouth would help you relax. And so that was another reason that I got the mouthpiece.
Now, did you use the AIRWAAV mouthpiece in baseball at all?
I never used the AIRWAAV mouthpiece in baseball. I was a big gum and sunflower seeds person, so I was always
Mm-hmm.
snacking on that during a game. Um, but it is cool for me to see you guys have several baseball and softball players using the mouthpiece now, and I absolutely could see how
Mm-hmm.
that's a benefit for sure.
Yeah. Maybe you could implement it with your triathlon training.
Oh, for sure. I plan on it. Um, Definitely those long bike rides. I've started using it, and I love the
Mm-hmm.
endurance mouthpiece for those long bikes and runs.
Is there a certain type of workout that you like to use the AIRWAAV on?
Um, I am a big like jaw clencher when I lift, and so
Mm-hmm.
more recently I've been using it more to lift, and that wasn't something I've done in the past. And I feel like it helps me stay a little more relaxed and not grit my teeth so much when lifting. But as far as a more cardio-based training, running is absolutely my favorite. I can tell a huge difference when I'm using it and when I'm not. Just because kind of what I talked about with just being able to relax and then even hold a better cadence with my breathing.
Yeah. You talked some about how someone recommended AIRWAAV just because the running aspect of it, if your shoulders are tight, you're tighter up in your traps and really just across the board, that putting the AIRWAAV in is helping you relax. Do you see that when you run as well, besides the breathing aspect of it?
For sure, for sure. I especially when it's a workout that has some sort of upper body pulling or pushing mixed in and running. Um, I mean, I was really bad about my shoulders wouldn't recover on the run because I was running with them so
So
tight and
tense.
yeah, and just
Yes.
not able to relax. But with the mouthpiece for sure, I've definitely seen that as a benefit.
And now you like to use it more in your lifting. Can you give an instance of how you're able to tell the difference with it in if you're doing like a snatch or something, or any other lift that you can tell difference?
Um, yeah, snatch especially. It's very similar to running. I would grit my teeth and tighten everything up in my upper body. And a saying that my coach always tells me is smooth is fast. And when you're super tense, you're not near as smooth. And so just helping to relax the jaw and the upper body and the neck when doing a snatch is, I mean, a lot of people don't realize how big of a difference that makes, even just your traps alone in the snatch.
Yeah. When you first started using it, how long did it take you to get used to it? And then what did you do to get used to it? Because that was something new that you hadn't tried before.
For sure. Movements with lots of up and down motion, burpees, rope climbs, handstand push-ups, anything inverted as well. I it didn't feel super comfortable. I felt like there was like a lot of saliva buildup and that, or it just got like I got tired of having it in my mouth. And so what I did to kind of get over that and get more comfortable with it was I wouldn't use it in metcons with anything upside down. But if I had skill work where I was working on deficit handstand push-ups or handstand walks, things like that, I would make sure to use it in the skill work. So I was getting used to having it in with movements that originally caused me some trouble. And really just a month and a half or so of doing that, and I'm able to wear it for every movement now. Besides maybe swimming,
Yeah,
I haven't tried that yet, but
I haven't tried it with swimming either. You're using it really across the board in everything, and now I'm assuming like you really don't go without it, which is how I was, because I was a little bit skeptical about it at first, and then it took me a little bit to get used to just because I hadn't used a mouthpiece at all. So it's definitely something very new, but once I gradually implemented it into my training, um, I was able to tell a difference, and now I don't go without it. Do you think there's a mental aspect of it at all for you?
um, sometimes I will even have like the clock ready, get chalked up, ready to do a workout, and then I'm just like, something's missing. And then I remember I don't have the mouthpiece in. So yes, I definitely feel a little bit like there's something missing if I don't have it in. But especially for running, I can tell a huge difference, and even just my confidence with holding certain cadences and paces. I'm like, I've always ran these paces with the AIRWAAV in, and so running them without it is a little less, like, I'm not exactly sure because I've never done it without them before. But for sure, having it in has helped me have a ton of confidence. And just, I can feel a difference when you have it in, as far as just, it almost feels like you're able to breathe in more air out for every breath. And so, especially when running, which is not my favorite, that helps every bit. So
because AIRWAAV is a mouthpiece and a lot of people are skeptical about a small mouthpiece being able to help with performance, what would be your biggest reason as to why someone should even try AIRWAAV out?
Just because the people I've talked to before I ordered it, and then I can attest to it myself, but I haven't heard anyone say that they can't tell a difference or that it's not helped them. It feels a lot, kind of like I described, like you just get bigger breaths, or at least that's what it feels like when you have the mouthpiece in. And I don't think a lot of people are super conscious about where their tongue is in their mouth, or very disciplined to keep it on the bottom of their mouth every breath. And so I mean, I think it's absolutely worth having in. And even though I know now that the optimal tongue position is kind of smashed down on the bottom of your mouth, I still don't think I could hold that position an entire workout and consciously keep it down there. So the mouthpiece just does that for you. You don't even have to think about it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of all I have for us, and thank you for sharing more about your AIRWAAV story and just really how it helps you. And I'm excited to see how you do in the triathlon. I guess in June. Did you say it was June?
July, end of July.
July. So I'll be on the lookout for that and for really the upcoming years to see how you do. So thank you just for sharing more about you and your AIRWAAV story.
Thank you.
Well, that's all for today's episode of On the Air. Thank you all for listening, and thank you, Ty, for joining me. Be sure to stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to purchase your own AIRWAAV mouthpiece if you want to break your best and unlock your full athletic potential. If you've made it this far, be sure to use code OTA15 for 15% off your next purchase. Drop any questions that you have in the comments below, and see you next time.